Yo, what's up, my peeps? We are back after a little holidays and some of the unfortunate events of the last couple months, but excited to be back again with my man Sean on the Live, Love, Live podcast. What's up, Sean? How's life been for you lately, man?
It's been good, man. It's been definitely a trying last month, but I think coming out of it, there's so much enthusiasm for us. It's just been incredible to see.
I think that is like a big thing I've noticed as well is like the community just came together so strongly over the last month because so many people needed it. And now we're kind of, like we're now into the later parts of February as we're shooting this. And it is cool to see like how a lot of that community and a lot of that same feeling is still here. So before we hop into anything else, we are going to be doing a little special members podcast today. I just want to just give, some loves and prayers out to everyone who lost their home, who's been affected during this process. We'll continue just to try to show up the best we can and be supportive to our peeps. And I hope that you all out there are doing the best to take care of yourselves because that's something that also gets lost in this process.
Yeah, I think, today the big thing that I wanted to bring was something that's really born out of the last, month and a half of, trial and tribulation. It's something, so, every other week we do a member check-in, which is really great. We kind of pick a topic, we focus on it, and we kind of discuss it at length and in depth. And over the past month, we've been doing them every week just to kind of, meet the demand of the community right now. So this was kind of the culminating of our like weekly ones. And the topic that we covered was the idea of goals versus intentions. And I think what was really cool was just to hear the experiences that members have had over the past month of really looking at the difference at a granular level between a goal and an intention. I think one of the big things we covered that I love so much, because we learned so much from the members, which is the awesomest part about this community, is I think goal setting is a really powerful way to hold yourself accountable and to set like a number or, something that has form, function, and again, lives in accountability. An example is I'm going to do 10 sessions in the next 4 weeks. Like that's a really hard thing. I think those are great. And I think there's times and I think there's places for those. And I think these last couple weeks have not been the time or place for those things. And so what we were talking about was the idea of what is an intention. An intention may be, hey, I have the intention to show up more for myself in this specific time, right? And you're really detaching the expectation and kind of in a way, setting yourself up for, life kind of aiding in the failure of that goal. Yeah. And I think, what the members were talking about and what I've resonated so much is if we can have both of those ideas in mind and understand that there's seasons for one and seasons for the other, you can keep the journey going forward in the midst of the hardships that are kind of externally placed on you. And so like for a lot of our members, this past month has been my intention is to continue to show up for myself in whatever capacity I can be or the life allows me to, and be around people that make me feel good and do things for my body that feel good. And what we've noticed and what we were kind of culminating with this last week was how that simple intention as opposed to a hard set goal really allowed them to leave these past weeks stronger, with more consistency, and with a better kind of mindset and ability to look forward now to, okay, now I can start to set some of these harder goals going forward.
Yeah, I think that's I like that a lot. I wasn't on there for that call, but I like that a lot because I think this is something we actually talked about at the workshop a couple of weeks ago, which is sometimes in the pursuit of like a goal or a habit, you actually forget what the intention was in the first place, right? Like we've all been through the thing of, oh, I'm gonna do this thing every single day. And so you start to fall more in love or pay more attention to, keeping up some silly streak as opposed to, well, what was the reason that you set that thing in the first place? What are you trying to even get out of it?
Yeah.
You know?
I think the way that I think about it in my brain is I call it the Duolingo syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
It's like my goal was to learn French. And it was like, well, what was the intention behind that goal? Was it to like take a trip to Paris? Was it to better connect with a family member, read a piece of literature? And then all of a sudden it's so about, I got to hit my streak every day.
Yeah. That little bird, man.
And then you miss it. And it's like, well, man, what's the point? Like the streak's gone. I'm not committing to the goal that I have. But what happened to the intention? Like the intention shouldn't be gone. And I think at times, like if the intention remains stronger and more of a pull, and you can reverse engineer the goal from that intention, that's a really easy way to just allow yourself some grace in the times where goals just aren't feasible.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's such a big piece. And I think a really good tell where you
Yeah.
can see if I'm just chasing the street goal or if I'm actually chasing the thing that I set this goal for in the first place
Yeah.
is if something happens and you have to miss a day,
Yeah.
right? And you know there will be situations where something happens. It might just be you're in your own head and you can't that day, but something happens and you miss a day, and then the next thought is, well, how am I going to make that up,
Yeah.
right? And if you ever have to make something up, you've already wrong,
Yeah.
right? Like the real goal of or the intention behind what you're doing should be to improve or get closer to X Y Z, and that's to try to it actually is pretty funny because a real funny thing that members do, especially our new members, is they'll try to be perfect in
Yeah.
showing up to all their sessions, and then they forget that they have kids and work and life,
Yeah.
and they can't be, and then they'll miss a session, and all of a sudden, oh my God, and then there's shame, there's guilt, and then the journey becomes harder because they stop focusing on taking care of themselves and their health, and there was this goal that was really based out of fear of like, oh, if I miss a day, if I miss my streak,
Yeah.
I'm not going to get there. And that's just not how it works. That's setting yourself up. That's like pre-self-sabotage, honestly.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, and that's something that we see a lot is like people will set such an unrealistic goal because they think that's, I think, culturally, definitely in the fitness industry, like that's what is set, like these like 60-day challenges or whatever it looks like, where it's like you have to do this inhuman amount of things in this amount of time. And if you don't do it, well, none of it matters anyway.
Yeah.
And again, I think for us, it's always looking at those things aren't inherently bad or wrong, but in your life right now, is that what you need? Like, we have like the 90-day strongs, and it's like you don't read your 20 pages, then you're a bad person. Like that's just not what we're in the business of doing here because it's just not realistic when you do have kids or you do have unexpected, unforeseen things that completely throw your life off track. And I think intentions really allow you to have a malleable baseline with how you show up for yourself that you can kind of customize and curate and still feel good about a job well done, even if it's not exactly the way that you want it to go. I mean, that's one of our core values, which is embrace the imperfect journey.
Exactly.
Because again, if you have the mindset of, hey, this is for the rest of my life, I'm looking to be lifelong strong, you don't need to make it up because you got the rest of your life to get back on track, do it again, and just continue to gradually progress in ways that you show up for yourself.
And I think too, with all that, right? Because it is such a dangerous line of like, will I ever fall off of it?
Yeah.
And I think like Sean's saying, like it really is, you got to reconnect to what is the actual intention behind it all.
Right.
What is the reason you started? What is the reason you want to do any of this? Because the worst thing that we can have for you in your fitness journey is that you fall so in love with, being perfect on a 6-week challenge that, like we see many times, that you miss one day in week 2, and then there were 4 weeks where you could have taken care of yourself. You could have continued to improve on the thing that you started the challenge or whatever else for, and you don't. And we don't want that.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the big things that we talk about that we're actually going to add in to our next challenge, which is getting away from the goal of like, oh, to be successful, you have to check off all the days and make it more of a, hey, like if you hit 80%, you won. So I love that came up in the member chat. And any final pieces you want to leave people with when it comes to?
I think it's just really taking stock of your individual kind of place and where you're at. And I think, again, that's what's so incredible about the space that we have the privilege to serve people in is that we're not, this big cookie cutter, big box gym where everybody has to get slapped with the same nutrition template or whatever it is. It really is, we have the ability here. And I think it's honestly the most productive way to think about it of just where am I at in life? What is the realistic expectation? And if my intention is just to be healthier and get better in the certain pieces that I have control over, you're winning. You're doing it great. And I think sometimes, again, my last piece is what we've seen in the last month is that can be really hard to track individually. Yeah. If you find yourself in a silo, where it's kind of I think that I'm the only one who can track this, or I don't have external accountability, or I don't have a community to kind of gauge my, wins against, you just kind of get lost in the forest. And I think, again, this past month has been really looking at if we can keep the intentions of being good and working on our health, we can do it in a situation that's fun and we have the support of a community. You're going to get through the hard times and be better equipped to meet some of those specific goals that you do have.
Oh yeah. No, my peeps. Well, appreciate you all for popping on today. If you are looking to start to better your health, your sleep, you're tired of being in pain, you're tired of feeling the way that you do every day that you wake up, but you want to start to work on those things in a way that doesn't force you to be perfect or do some crazy 75 hard workout 3 times a day, we are relaunching our new and improved 6-week transformation. And the way that we do it here at Aion, like Sean said, two of the core and guiding principles are just show up, i.e., show up imperfectly and embrace the imperfect journey, right? So one of the things we are doing this year is we're going to reformat it where it's less a focus of, oh my God, I have to hit every single day on these 6 weeks. And it is more of, hey, I'm going to keep the intention to do it, which means if you're only doing it one day a week, you may not really be, on track with where you want to be to get to some of those intentions that you have, but you shouldn't have to do it every single day, and there shouldn't be any shame in that process. So well, if you're interested in that, we'll drop a little link down in the comments below. We hope to see you all soon. Have a good day.